Hello, Jan. Thought you'd like to see the next step in the process of assembling your transmission. Obviously, I've got the counter shaft installed with the new bearings, and the main shaft is installed. And we've almost got us a transmission here. Looking pretty good. Now then, our next step is to install the front cover. And what's involved with the front cover, as you can see here, you have to have your depth micrometers. Well, let's see. First, we'll start up here. Okay. You measure the depth from the parting surface to where the shims go in here to press against this snap ring right here, pushing the bearing up against the case and holding it tight. We've got a snap ring here that holds the bearing onto the shaft, and now we're going to hold the bearing into the case. And you measure your depth right here, and then between the transmission separating surface and the snap ring, the measurements are taken. The snap ring must fit snugly against the, so we make sure we're up snug against there. Now then, down here, the clearance between this ball bearing and the case got to be 0 to 0.05 millimeters. That's 0 to 0.002 inches. 0.002 inches is the thickness of a human hair. I'll give you an idea how precise this is. And then we get to adjust it with a variety of shims. So over here, we have, this is your front cover. Here's a demonstration front cover because I don't want to put this in with the seal and booger up the seal on that spline shaft. So what we do is you get your depth micrometer and you measure the depth right here where the shims go and where this presses against the bearing. And you come over here and you measure your depth right here. Get this up against this is the hard part because you got very little to push against, to rest against. So I'll get my fingers out of the way. So we're resting on this little shelf right here, and we're using the switch hands here. And then we start dialing this down until we get our depth. And you can see it's very easy to start to push too hard, to screw down too hard, and you start moving this thing off the surface. So you got to be very careful, very precise. And once we get those measurements, we do a little math, and we come up with 21 thousandths clearance, or difference between the two surfaces. So I found 3 shims I put together, and we're going to measure these. And the measurement of those 3 shims put together is, there's 25 thousandths. So we don't want 25 thousandths, so we remove one of these shims. Remove the thinnest shim. Here we go. Remove that shim right there. Clean off our hands. Put this in here, and we get 20 thousandths. There's 20 thousandths right there, and that is within our specifications. We are 1 thousandths difference. We've split the difference between 0 and 2 thousandths. And now you take those shims, they go in here. Put a little grease on them to keep them in place so they don't fall off when we're installing them. And we put some sealant all around there and install the front cover. So we put some grease on here to lubricate this, put some tape on the splines here to keep them from cutting into the seal as we install it. So that's what it takes to install your front cover. Now, no shims go down here, because what happens is once you install the front cover, you then tap on the back bearing and push this all the way forward. You see it coming out slightly. You push that all the way forward until it hits the inside of the case, inside of the front cover, and stops, and then all the shimming is done at the rear. And as I'd mentioned to you before, these things, this is the world's worst seal. There's absolutely nothing to keep these lips from in contact with this surface right here. So, since they knew it was going to leak or weep, they put a hole in here so that the seepage from the transmission would drip out the front here and not get all onto the clutch. And so your transmission will typically have some weepage. And this goes in here like this. There we go. Push that back, and you got your weepage right here, and it's going to dribble down, and so you're going to have the front of the transmission, and the bottom is going to have a little moisture on it all the time. And if it doesn't, you're out of fluid. That's what we say. Anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. Very time consuming and very precise. I am splitting the thickness of a human hair in half, and that is the clearance that we have between the snap ring here and the inside of the front cover.